This is my older sister, Ashley. She is and always has been my biggest role model and my best friend. Growing up, I always wanted to be just like her. While in high school, my sister earned 16 varsity sports credits in volleyball, cheerleading, basketball, and track, something that had never been done in the 30 years that Oakridge had been around at the time. Now, I was just in 7th grade and had finally begun playing sports for the school when I was finally beginning to realize what a big deal my sister was on campus. However, it wasn't until I was a little bit older that I truly realized the impact of the legacy that my sister had left behind and the pressure that I suddenly felt to continue it. As many of you know, in 7th grade at Oakridge, we get to pick the sports that we want to play. Girls pick either field hockey, cross country, or volleyball in the fall, basketball, soccer, or swimming in the winter, and for me, it was either track or softball in the spring, but now there are many more options. Additionally, girls could sign up for the cheer squad in the fall. Naturally, when it came time to pick a fall sport, I signed up for volleyball and also joined the cheer squad. In my mind, being a field hockey player or not being a cheerleader didn't even seem like viable options. Basketball had always been such a large part of my life, and I'd been playing since I was 6 years old, so there was no surprise when I chose basketball over soccer. However, the surprise did come when I chose track over softball because I had a history of hating running. I spent my 7th and 8th grade years doing anything and everything I could to be exactly like Ashley. I believe that since she had found so much success in these 4 sports, that I would too. I had it in my mind that everyone expected me to be just like her, that everyone expected me to excel in the sports that we now played. In reality, none of my coaches or teammates really acknowledged the anxiety that I felt to be exactly like my sister until a particularly bad volleyball game in 8th grade. There's no way around the fact that I sucked that game. And when I say sucked, I mean was truly and completely awful. So awful that the other team started intentionally serving the ball at me because they knew I would shank it every time. Yes, I was that kid. Finally, Coach Clark came to her senses and subbed me out of the rotation. When I took my spot on the bench, I began to analyze everything that went wrong in that game and came to the conclusion that it was simply because I was not the athlete that Ashley was. But now, looking back on it, I realized that a large part of my poor performance was due to the fact that I was in my own head. I was so afraid of the possibility of potentially failing that I ended up doing just that. After the game, the assistant volleyball coach, Coach Johnson, who also happened to be the 8th grade girls basketball coach, pulled me aside and told me what I already knew. She told me that she knew I felt a lot of pressure to be just like Ashley because as Ashley's former coach, she knew the legacy she had left behind. Coach Johnson was the first person to tell me that being myself, regardless of how much I felt like I was letting everyone down, was far better than trying and frankly failing to be everything that Ashley was. Coach Johnson helped me realize that at some point, I was going to have to accept the fact that I wasn't Ashley. I was just me, and being just me was going to have to be enough. As I entered high school, there were around 40 girls signed up for the cheerleading squad, and for the first time in a few years, tryouts would be held to determine who would be on junior varsity and who would be on varsity. Right off the bat, I knew this would be my first test to try to live up to what Ashley had left behind. But when the list was posted and my name was on the JV, I knew my chances of carrying out that legacy were gone. Even though it was now clear that I would never be able to be Ashley, I still struggled to be comfortable in my own skin, and frankly, to find myself. I failed to define myself as anything aside from the superstar athlete's younger sister, and I struggled to accept my own strengths and my own weaknesses. For so long, I was so concerned with being perfect and being everything that my sister was. I thought that since everyone was so proud of her and everyone accepted her and her accomplishments, if I did the same things, people would be proud of me as well. So I joined the same clubs as she did, took the same classes, played the same sports, wore the same jersey number. I even convinced my mom to let us get the same backpack. And let me tell you, middle school Ashley was not too keen on the fact that lower school Kourtnei had the same backpack as she did. I did all these things in an attempt to find the approval that she had once earned. For a long time, I focused on doing the things that I thought would make other people happy, not necessarily the things that I wanted to do. Sometimes these events would overlap, but other times they wouldn't. Because what I failed to realize is that the thing that would make everyone the happiest is if I was doing something that I loved. One day, I was in the car with my sister, and she flat out asked me, "Why do you run track?" A sport I complained about at least once a day, even when it wasn't track season. I thought long and hard about this question and came to the most honest answer that I could. Because you did it. She told me that it was okay to be my own person, and that I didn't have to do the things that she did because I thought it would please other people. Ashley helped me see that I'm special because I'm me, not because I'm her sister. For a long time, I believed that if I was making other people happy, I too would find happiness. But Ashley helped me see that pure happiness comes from within myself, and I would never be truly happy until I could learn to accept my flaws and celebrate my strengths. Because what I failed to see then is that pure joy is contagious, and if I'm happy, those around me cannot help but feel the same. After making JV volleyball and basketball my freshman year, with my newfound view on finding happiness, I decided to try something new, to do something that Ashley had never done before. I tried out for the softball team, and wasn't even discouraged when I made JV, because hey, Ashley never made varsity softball either. Now, even though I wasn't the most talented kid out there, and even though I thought the best way to knock down the ball was to stick out any body part in front of it to keep it from rolling behind me, I had fun, and for the first time, I'd begun to stand on my own. What I failed to see then is that the reason I was so unhappy and so displeased with my own performance was because I was hiding behind my sister's success. I hid in the shadow of a legacy that my sister left behind out of fear of being different. Softball was the first sport that I played because I truly wanted to, not because I thought other people expected me to. And for the first time, I was no longer being defined by Ashley's past, but only by my present. I continued playing these 4 sports my sophomore year, earning varsity letters in cheerleading, basketball, and softball. As my junior year rolled around, I struggled with this decision of staying on the volleyball team or trying my luck with field hockey. When I thought about it, I couldn't really pinpoint the reason why I still played volleyball. I mean, I knew I'd started in an attempt to live in the safety of my sister's shadow, but I couldn't really figure out why I stayed. Now, maybe it was because I'd already been playing for 4 years, or maybe it was because my best friends were doing it. So after struggling with the decision all summer, I decided to try out for the field hockey team. Switching over to softball and realizing that I was living in the safety of my sister's shadow helped me realize that although it's easier and safer to do the things you're already comfortable doing, life isn't always about playing it safe. And boy, am I glad that I switched over to field hockey, because field hockey taught me how to push myself far out of the safety of my comfort zone. I earned a spot on both JV and varsity that year, a feat I would never thought would be possible. Switching to field hockey helped me realize that I didn't need Ashley to hide, that I could be able to stand by myself and be my own person. For the first time, I felt proud of myself for doing something that Ashley had not, and for doing it pretty successfully. The point of this speech is not to talk about all the things that I did in comparison to all of the things that Ashley did, but it is instead to talk about how and why that I did them. I knew it would be easy to quit all the sports that I was playing and to let the legacy die out, but I also knew I would regret not doing anything and everything I could to continue my own version of it. Now, it was never easy, physically or emotionally, and there would be times that I would be so inside of my own head that I would underperform in a game and leave my coaches and teammates disappointed. But it was the times that I lacked the skill that she had, or the times that I felt that I wasn't good enough, that made me want to work harder to be better and create my own legacy. It is through these times that I was able to see the light outside of Ashley's shadow. And it was through these times that I was able to stand on my own. My sister is my best friend, my biggest supporter, and unbeknownst to her, my biggest motivator. It is because of her legacy that I too was inspired to leave my own legacy. It is because of her that I was able to find out who I really am. And it is because I decided to take a leap out of my sister's shadow that I was able to realize that maybe being just me is more than enough. Maybe being just me is pretty great. Thank you.